Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Robbie Rhino, and in today's video we have the second installment in the series I'm putting on this channel called The Worst Tanks to Play in WoT Console. And before we get to the tank in question and the gameplays in the background, I'd just like to sort of caveat this series just by saying yes, these tanks can have good games. They can have phenomenal games in some circumstances. The best players will get the best out of these tanks, and if you know how to play them, obviously you will get slightly better results than players that don't know how to play them to their full capabilities. But the main reason for them being in this series is that they are statistically the worst tank at the tier that they're in, or they are the worst tank in the class in the tier they're in, if that makes sense. So they might have some good attributes, but they largely, 60 to 80% of their attributes are either worst in class or near the bottom of the sort of the table of poor statistics, if we put it that way. So I'd like to say that some of these tanks, they are tanks that I enjoy to play. The tank in question in this video is actually one of my favourites, purely because of the name, but also because it can be quite enjoyable to play in the right circumstance, but it can be quite painful in certain scenarios, and there are sometimes sort of scenarios in which you just can't do anything. Basically, you are just you're stuck, and you have to surrender to the tank's sort of weaknesses and just try and survive rather than pushing the pace. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get into the tank in question, which is the Rinoceronte, and you'll actually see that it's not me playing the tank in the background gameplay. For the first and third replays of this video, you will see a community member goes by the name of their gamer tag is DuduChimKim-p. Sorry if I've absolutely butchered that. On PlayStation. They've kindly submitted two replays for me to use for the Rinoceronte, so I don't have to throw my controller at the wall trying to get good games. I'm going to be calling them Dudu, not because they play like it. They play phenomenally well in this tank, purely because it's easier and it sounds funnier. Yeah, so let's get on to the tank in question, which I've just said is the Rinoceronte. The Rinoceronte is a premium tier 10 Italian auto-reloading heavy tank, and auto-reloading mechanic means that the shells just go in one by one by one. They're not, the whole clip isn't reloaded at once. You can fire after one shell, fire after two shells, so on and so forth. And this tank has a 127mm gun with a 3-round autoloader. Means the clip potential that you have on this tank is 1470. But because of the intra-clip reload, which is 4 seconds, it does take you 12 seconds to get that 1470 damage out, so please do be wary of that. That is a downside to this tank. You can sort of be firing and get a bit too eager and think, oh, I'm going to put 1470 into the side of a mouse or something, and then you're dried up and then you have a horrendous reload, which I'll get onto in a second. So yeah, just be wary, don't sit out in front of people for too long. So this 127mm gun, it deals 490 alpha damage on its APCR and heat rounds and 640 on its HE. The shell velocity, just to mention, is the same on the heat and HE, which is 756 meters a second, and the shell velocity on the APCR is at 1452. So there's a massive differential between those two. So yeah, just be wary of that. It can catch you out. The penetration is actually one of the best in class. One of the great attributes of this tank. It's 268 on its standard APCR, but its heat rounds do suffer a little bit. They are slightly low at 325mm of penetration on its heat rounds, but you can make that work. And I guess this is like one of, if not the only kind of really good thing about this tank is the gun. Not the reload, but the gun itself. It has a 2-second aim time, which is great, and this is all base statistics. 0.33 accuracy. It carries 33 rounds, so plenty of rounds. You're going to need an exceptionally long game to get through all of the rounds, and you probably won't be able to, I don't think, actually, because of the long reload. It has 10 degrees of gun depression, which is, it's very workable on a lot of ridge lines, which is absolutely fantastic. 15 degrees of gun elevation, which, it's quite quite awkward on some hills, but I find that this tank doesn't suffer too badly from it. Just be wary of that. And now we get on to one of the worst things about this tank, and it's the reloading time for the auto reloader. So the first shell reloads in 21 seconds base. The second shell has a 23-second base reloading time, and the third shell has a 25-second base reloading time, which means to reload 3 shells for 1470 damage, you're waiting 69 seconds base. Obviously you can increase that with commander skills and equipment, and using the combat rations and things like that, which you kind of have to in this tank, otherwise it could be unplayable for the large majority of the player base, I'd say. But yeah, that's an awful part of this tank, and it makes it extremely difficult to play. It has 2,000 health, which is very low for a tier 10 heavy. You can obviously make it work if you're careful, but yeah, just be careful with your trades and make sure they're effective for you and your team. Speed and maneuverability are quite nice at 40 km an hour forwards and 12 km an hour backwards, which isn't brilliant, but the forward speed and the sort of whole traverse isn't too bad. And the base view range is 390 meters, which is, it's okay, it's not great, but not absolutely terrible, and obviously you could increase that with equipment and commander skills. So what equipment do I personally use? Well, I use gun stabilizer just to increase that attribute. The best attribute of the tank, in my opinion, is the actual gun itself. I use an advanced loader for obvious reasons, and improved ventilations for obvious reasons as well. It just helps that, that performance around everything. Shoutouts could be given to advanced optics, because you could try and increase your view range to get more assistance and use the tank that way. And you could use mobility equipment to sort of, get around the battlefield a bit quicker, but sometimes you want that time to reload, and you want to sort of plan your line of attack a little bit more, so that's what I've gone with. My commander has Sixth Sense, Born Leader, Rapid Loading, Snapshot, Steady Aim, Run and Gun, Rapid Aim, Situational Awareness, and Armor Angling. Very kind of standard, kind of heavy setup, I guess, but I'm just trying to focus on the view range there and mainly the gun skills, basically. And kindly, Dudu has sent in some of their pros and cons of the tanks. So some of them I might gone over, but I'll just go over them for you now. So yeah, one of the best standard round penetrations at 268. Good APCR speed, good gun depression, good top speed, and obviously the alpha damage and caliber, which is a great point, means that you can damage internal modules, and it's very satisfying to hit with that alpha damage, and you feel like you are taking chunks out of the enemy team. So yeah, that is one great thing. So we're going to hop into the second replay, which is mine, and I'll see you there in a bit. So here we are in the second replay of the video now, which is a replay that I have had in the Rinoceronte on Fisherman's Bay. And I'm just going to quickly go over the cons that Dudu has sent in alongside this replay, just to see if there are anything else. And I can see that there is some really good points that I'd like to mention. So on PC, the Italian heavy tanks have or the auto-reloading heavy tanks have a compensation mechanic, and for those that don't know what that is, it just means that if you fire early, and I think it's within like 2 seconds or 1.5 seconds or something like that of a shell, your next shell will get a compensation, so you'll get a little bit taken off of the next shell, just meaning that your DPM, it doesn't go down as bad as it can be. But yeah, unfortunately the console version doesn't have that. And also the PC version, which was considered one of the worst tanks and one of the worst kind of lines in the game, from a lot of players that I sort of read, and a lot of YouTubers that put up replays of the tanks before they came to console. It was considered one of the worst lines, and for some reason console decided to make the actual reloads of these shells even longer. So yeah, I don't know why they did that. Maybe they just don't. They wanted to cause us some pain. Maybe we upset them for some reason. God only knows. But yeah, like I said in the last video, you can make this tank work. You can make a lot of tanks in this series work. But yeah, it is work that that makes them work. If that makes sense, you have to actually try. It's not going to be just going out and playing like an idiot. Like some tanks you can do. But yeah, definitely not for the Rinoceronte. As I said in the last replay, I'd like to reiterate that the heat and the HE have 752 meters a second, which is, you know, half of the APCR shell velocity, so that can catch you out if you're kind of playing all game with the APCR and you switch to heat and you just lead your shells, so just be wary of that. Armour wise, which Dudu brings up, which is a fantastic point, basically the turret you can kind of get max sort of 280 effective, maybe up to 330 in some areas, but tier 10s with standard and a lot of tier 10s that, you know, all that happens at tier 10 now is, you know, firing premium for some players. I can be guilty of that in some games, so they're just going to butter right through you. Again, the hull you can get up to sort of maximum extreme angling of like 330 on the upper hull, but you just can't rely on the armour. So be careful with your trades, especially with that 2k health as well. Yeah, it does sort of suit a ridgeline. So as you'll see me in this replay on Fisherman's Bay, I'm using the ridgelines, trying to stay hold down because you can ricochet lower tiers, and you know you can get lucky in ricochet, but just don't rely on it. Yeah, and I think that's pretty much it for most of the cons. As you can see, there are a lot of cons. They definitely outweigh the positives. But yeah, it can be quite fun seeing those sort of big alpha damage bombs go in, and you know, since they changed the rolls back to what they used to be, so their damage rolls, you are seeing, you know, a lot of high rolls now, or I'm seeing a lot more, and it's just a lot more satisfying to see those 400 and sort of 90, 500 plus rolls go in, and it can make you feel like you're actually doing a lot more than maybe sometimes you are. But as you can see from Dudu in his replay in the first, and you'll see in the last replay of this video, you know, if you play smartly, you can have brilliant games. But yeah, I still consider this one of the worst tanks, tier for tier in the game. Yeah, and I think a lot of players would agree with that. If you like it, that's awesome. I mean, I like this tank still. I just don't want to have a whole session in it, if that makes sense, especially if things aren't going too well, because I find it hard to push the tempo in this tank. You know, sometimes you literally can't because you're reloading. Your armour doesn't always hold up. Yeah, but you can make it work, and it can be a lot of fun. So let's get on to the gameplay while I've waffled all over the statistics. But I do hope that trying to explain every single thing about the tank, or every single pro and con that I can think of, or that my community can think of, really helps you out in playing the tank. And yeah, so on Fisherman's Bay, I've kind of come to the middle, trying to get some view range out, trying to get some assistance. As you can see, we've already got a little bit of assistance up. We've got 1326 and 2543 direct damage. We've actually blocked 1150, and is that from the Jagdpanzer even 100? I might have got lucky and got an auto ricochet angle on a big alpha gun there. I've just blocked a couple of shots. I should have been paying attention, really. I mean, it was me that did the replay, but there we are. So I've come to the ridgeline, got some shots in, got some vision out, tried to help my team that way, and now I'm going to be pushing on. This is an extremely aggressive kind of push, but I've noticed that their team, like the team's kind of gone like, is that clockwise or anti-clockwise? Yeah, anti-clockwise. As you can see, I'm a complete idiot. But they've kind of gone around in a circle, so their teams sort of circled back behind our teams, where our TVs are camping in the A, B, 1, 2 area. So I've kind of gone around just to sort of try and mop up behind the rear of the enemy team and try and get a different line of attack. And as you can see, it's helped my assistance damage go up. So now we've got yeah, nearly 5k combined, which, you know, anything sort of 5k, 6k above combined is fairly decent in this tank, I think, for a lot of players, especially me. But we get a lucky shot there into the top of the Death Star's turret, which is a nice roll of, I think, above 500. That is a weak point of the Death Star. If you didn't know, that sort of bar across the top of the turret, it's kind of hard to hit. Kind of a bit of up to RNG whether you do hit it, but there you can see the great gun handling of this tank in action there. The dispersion is quite decent. It's not too bad, as Dudu has mentioned in his little message with this replay for me. Leopard 1 gets into shot into me, but we're starting to win this game, and I'm going to go for the Leopard 1, but I want to get the artillery out of the way, because if he hits me directly in the side, he will kill me, and we're going to finish this Leopard off. And that's where having, you know, an autoloader or an auto reloader or an auto loader is fantastic, because you have those extra shells to do things like that and get the extra kills, and then I fire into the sky completely intentionally to celebrate a victory. And yeah, as you can see, there's a skin for this tank which I think looks pretty sexy, sort of Roman inspired, for those of you that like that kind of thing. So we pick up 3.8k direct damage, we pick up 5 kills, get a mastery badge, ace tanker. We got our first mark, pushing for our second now. 3 mark in this tank, might be quite difficult, but I'll give it a go. 3.8k assistance and 1661 base experience points. So I'm going to hop into the last replay, which is from Dudu, and I'll talk you through that one, so see you in a bit. So we're here on the third and final replay of the video now, and as you can see, this is a replay from Dudu on El Alamein in his Rinoceronte. Yeah, and I think the replays, obviously these are all good replays in this video, but they do demonstrate how this tank can be effective. You know, slightly longer games, games where you are allowed to get your reloads in, games where you know, players don't YOLO you, players don't rush you, where artillery don't necessarily focus you for the whole game, that kind of thing. And those are all obviously great things for any tank, but a tank like this especially really benefits from having that time to, you know, reload, to relocate, to pick and choose its positions. And as you can see, Dudu here is going up to the sort of ridge line here in E2, kind of a typical kind of brawling area I found on this map now. A lot of the heavies do come this way. It looks like they're going to head on down now, try and get through this gap, which can be a bit of a nightmare to get through if there are TDs sort of camping, as you can see, straight on and to the left of where they're going now. And this is a map, and there are certain maps in the game that will benefit this tank a lot more. Things where you can get hold down, a nice auto aim shot there into the tusk. Fortunately, the tusk doesn't sort of YOLO around. Another auto aim shot into the tusk, and a nice aim shot into the tusk there again. So 3 shots in for 1473, and that tusk is now, you know, living on a prayer basically. Very small number of hit points left, and you know, you can devastate tanks like that, but obviously, as you can see there, you're just looking behind, that tusk might be coming up from behind, but you have this horrible reload. And with combat rations, with good commander and equipment, you know, I think the lowest that I've seen you can get this reload down for the whole for all the 3 shells is about 54 seconds. And that's kind of, I think, what me and Dudu have got our reloads down to, which is still, you know, it's just shy of a minute. It's incredibly long. The DPM is horrific, like I say, worst at tier 10, definitely worse at the heavies at tier 10, which means fighting one-on-one, you sort of have to pick and choose your battles. And as you can see, and I'm still talking and we haven't reloaded our final shell here in the replay. Just proves, you know, how blooming long this reload is. But when you are reloaded, you are a threat. And if you're thinking about how to play this tank more effectively and how to get the most, obviously firing your first shell off, waiting for the reload and firing it again, that's the way to get the best DPM out of the tank. But sometimes you are needed to fire your second and third shells to finish tanks off, or to help, you know, teammates getting killed and that kind of thing. And as you can see here, firing 2 shells, and now that machine is a 1 shot, and I think Dudu is going to use the third shell to finish the machine off, stop that push of those 2 heavy tanks coming round. And now there's 3 tanks here on 1 heavy tank, and that heavy tank is being chased away. You can scare the tanks away. Try and make sure you stick as close by teammates as possible in this tank so you have support when you're reloading. Communicate using the reloading wheel. Obviously not all the time that people will listen to you or try and help, but if you don't ask for help, you're not going to get it, are you? So why not try and ask for help? And great play here by Dudu, you know, advancing when, you know, you're not spotted, when that Super Conqueror in front isn't getting shot, advance it to the next ridge line and push in the sort of tempo with your friendlies, and sort of, you're just going to have to play a support role in this vehicle. To get really high damage numbers, you're going to have longer games. You're going to have games where you're able to put the shells in. So another big roll above 500 and another one there, so that's 902 shots. But unfortunately this machine looks like he might come over, but I think he's noticed that the Super Conqueror is beside Dudu here, and he thinks twice about that, because the Super Conqueror obviously is very powerful with its great turret and fantastic gun handling and DPM. So we're still reloading the final shell, and the shell comes in. That was a Tusk, so luckily that didn't hit, and a great aim shot there from Dudu finishes off the Tusk. That could have been disastrous, hitting the side. The Super Conqueror or the Rinoceronte could have penetrated, sat on fire, anything like that. And I think combat rations, although not many people take them, obviously because of the silver at tier 10, I wouldn't say they're a necessity, but I'd highly advise you take them. As you can see, Dudu takes them and uses standard consumable, so that's one way to do it. But we've just now managed to finish reloading, and that was great sort of patience there from Dudu to hold that final shell to get it in. And that allows Dudu to finish off the T95 and still have one shell in the bank for later. And as you can see, that big alpha damage bombs, if you can sort of try and get this gun singing and not miss any shots, because missing is horrendous in this tank, you rack up the damage nice and quickly. And this game is coming to an end. Dudu could have waited to reload there, but I think he just wanted to get the damage in. Gets shot into the grill. Tracks the grill, gets the assistance from it. That version 5 comes around. Looks like Dudu's time in this game is up, but the Conqueror gun carriage comes to the rescue. Don't we all love artillery, right? Only when it's on our team and helping us. There's just one artillery left, and as you can see in the top right hand corner, Dudu has picked up 5.2k direct damage and 3.7k assistance, and had an absolutely fantastic game in one of the worst tanks, but it can be a very fun tank as well. Edging towards an oxymoron there, but I think that's just the best way to describe this tank. And some tanks in this series are going to be awful, just downright awful, and I don't think they're kind of fun or anything like that, but yeah, some tanks will be fun as well. But Dudu finishes the T92 off. Always nice to get a little piggy out at the end of the game. And that's it for that replay. So in a win, Dudu finishes MVP, 4 kills, 5.3k direct damage, 3.7k assistance. You know, makes some silver. As I can see there, Dudu on his last commander skill, I believe, so only an 8 skill commander, which means that it's an absolutely fantastic game. And thank you very much, Dudu, for sending the replays in. I hope you enjoyed me commentating and butchering your gamertag. So thanks all for watching this video. Let me know in the comments how you think this video has gone. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video on this channel, and also the next video in this series. So I hope you all have had a great weekend. I'll see you on a Battlefield soon, and bye for now.